next guest has built a name of his own as an advocate for teachers, for inclusion, and the arts. And he most recently worked as a middle school drama and humanities teacher before joining his husband. How much do we love hearing those words, by the way? His husband on the presidential campaign trail. In his terrific memoir, I Have Something to Tell You, he shares his story of growing up gay in a small Midwestern town, and he now lives in South Bend, Indiana, with his husband and their 2 rescue dogs. Everybody, please welcome our special guest, Chasten Buttigieg.
Hey in there. Thanks for having me. It's so nice to see you.
It's so great to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
You got it.
So in this, we're going to dive right in. So in this movie, Emma's character gives us an idea of what it's like growing up gay in a small Midwestern town. How did her story resonate with you?
It was very powerful. I saw this show twice on Broadway, and I went into the show expecting to have a really good time. I did not realize how much the show was just going to punch me in the stomach, right in the feels. I never got to go to prom. Because I never got to be my authentic self in high school. And that really hurt, seeing that on stage, especially when I'm going to try not to spoil it, like you said, but when other students rob her of that experience, when other students get in the way of her being her authentic self. And that feeling of being seen on stage, a character that I saw my own self in. Navigating high school, feeling like I couldn't be myself, feeling like I couldn't come out around my family, my church, my community, any social group that I was in. And so I think this story is really important, for the young Chastens or Emmas out there who want to see that struggle and that pain, but also those victories and that process on the screen and on the stage. So like I said, did not anticipate the movie hit me in the feels as much as it did, but it was really personal.
Yeah, and I love that we get to see stories like that, so folks can see what that journey is like, see what that experience is. Now, you also have this additional lens of working as a teacher in a small town, and for a lot of queer kids, and for all kids, you were a drama teacher and theater, musical theater. I mean, that was a refuge for me. I was not a queer kid, but I was all in with my theater teacher. That was my refuge. So what was your experience as a teacher, maybe even specifically as a drama teacher, in terms of creating community and an inclusive or safe space for youth?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I first have to throw it out to Mrs. Bach. My high school theater teacher saved my life. That was my refuge. That was my safe space. I used to take my lunch into the theater and sort of hide in the theater because I never really knew where I fit, and I never really felt alive or seen or understood or really loved and appreciated by a teacher unless I was in Mrs. Bach's classroom or in her theater. And so becoming a theater teacher, she was really the impetus for that career, that inspiration and the love that I received from her. And when I became a teacher, it was never about the content. It was never about being the best English teacher or the best social studies teacher or even drama teacher. It was just being that person in the room. It was being the person that students could look up to, where they felt understood and seen and they felt safe. That was the most important thing to me, that students could come to me and they could come to my classroom and feel safe and loved and appreciated. Because I remember what it felt like to go through high school, to walk through those hallways, or to sit in the church, or to be active in 4-H or the bowling team or all the other things that I was doing, and never feel like I was doing any of those things as Chasten, that I was always pretending to be somebody else. So as a teacher, I just wanted to be that person in the room where other kids just felt safe. And I think that is so important for folks who are watching and wondering how they can be, a better teacher or a better ally or a friend, is make sure you are being that person. Especially teachers and families, you have to look at the person that you love and appreciate, or the person that you want to know, that you are a safe space, and tell them. That's the thing. Allyship is an action word, right? And so it means a lot when teachers say, I am here for you. If there's anything you want to talk about, I am here for you. This is an inclusive space. This is an LGBTQI+ affirming space. You are fine just as you are in this space. And I think we need more teachers like that. And I hope that I'm just a little beacon of that coming out of Indiana, because I know Indiana doesn't get the best rap in the movie, but there are great, lovely, inclusive teachers in Indiana as well.
It's absolutely true. And I'm really glad that you said that. And later on in the broadcast, we're going to be meeting some PFLAGers who are doing the work in Indiana and Omaha, and, you know, to make sure that they know there are people like you, like them, who are showing up for them. And you're right. Ally is not an identity. Ally is an action word. And it's a way that we have to take action. And I think as an ally organization, we emphasize that all the time, that ally is not the centered identity, right? Ally is the person who shows up to center everybody else who needs them.
Absolutely.
So right now we have a lot of youth. Everybody's in lockdown. I'm in LA. You know, we're going through it everywhere, but there are a lot of queer youth in particular, some with families who are not affirming right now. And, you know, of course, you know, this summer and throughout the year, we couldn't gather for in-person events, not in-person pride events, which I know you and your husband have attended in the past.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. I'm guessing might be a pride event, but I'm pretending. Yeah. So,
that was Austin Pride, Austin, Texas.
And PFLAGers, you know, that's our jam, showing up for people at Pride, and all year, but that's, you know, the place where most people show up. So what messages might you have for kids who'll be watching this movie and might not be with affirming family, you know, and might not be able to be with their chosen family, right, who affirm them right now, who might be missing that community connection?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because it is so easy to tell people, just be yourself, right? Just be your authentic self. And earlier in the broadcast, we were talking about setting boundaries. And typically what I would tell a student is, you know, one, never have a conversation or go into a conversation where you are going to be unsafe. Never put yourself in harm's way or in danger. There are many kids in this country who are at risk of being kicked out of their homes and losing their homes if they demand that their parents or loved ones treat them as an equal human being. So my first bit of advice would be that don't put yourself in danger. Now, when we're setting boundaries, we can disagree about so many things in life, right? We can disagree about ice cream flavors. We can disagree about pizza toppings or the best movie, but we will not disagree about people's humanity. That's where the debate ends, is when someone debates your worthiness or your humanity. So you have to know, if you're sitting at home and you're maybe watching TheProm under your blankets. I feel like if young Chasten were watching this, he'd wait for everyone to go to bed and watch it under the covers. Just know that this community is here for you. That's why we're here tonight, sharing in community. And just know that there are millions of people in this country who love you for just who you are. And sometimes finding that chosen family, finding those allies, takes time. And it also takes time, as we see with Alyssa's family in the video, it takes time for family to come around or learn, because people are afraid of things that they don't know. They're afraid of things that are new and scary to them. So I remember when I came out, nobody knew what it meant to be gay. So of course they sort of rejected it and pushed it away because they didn't know what it meant. So if you're at home and you're scared, or you're, you know, lonely because you feel like you don't have community, PFLAG can help with that. And there are multiple other organizations around the country that want to accept you, and many of them doing it virtually right now. And so you might have to do a little homework. Nobody loves more homework in lockdown, but just trust that there are spaces for you that can't wait to accept you and affirm you for who you are. And I will always have your back, I promise.
I love that. The movie got you in the fields and you got me. So you've now gotten your revenge. Good job. So would you be willing to take a question? We're getting tons of questions.
Sure.
Would you be willing to take a question from a viewer? So I think we have one. We have a comment thanking you for being you and for speaking out on behalf of everybody. And I echo that as well. Thank you so much for that. And thanks to Chasten. Can't imagine how many kids you've saved with your celebratory safe space. Truth.
Always be there.
Oh, Sabella's life was kicked out, moved across the other side of the world. Best thing they ever did, and somehow made their parents accepting and made them closer.
That's very similar. I ran away actually when I came out because I was so afraid of disappointing my family. I just ran away for a while, and now, I mean, I think my parents might love Peter more than me, just a little bit. But they are our staunchest allies. And like I was saying, they just didn't know. But that relationship grew stronger, and they did the work. They really did the work and had to ask the hard questions. And so I'm sorry that that was your experience in the first place, but I'm so glad that you were able to come home and be reunited with your family.
And that love and forgiveness is so important. And also it's a good reminder too, that sometimes that love and forgiveness doesn't happen, and that's also okay. You know, that for LGBTQ plus people who've been traumatized by being let go, by not being affirmed, that if that forgiveness can't happen on your side, you know, parents and families have their journey, and they'll take that journey.
Yeah.
And, you know, we always hope it leads to some kind of reconciliation, but that might not happen. And that's, again, that found family, that chosen family really comes in, and that's, you know, everyone's journey is specific and unique to them. And, you know, we honor that too, and make space for every outcome.
That's so right. And it's so important when we draw that boundary, right? We can wait with an open heart and open arms, and we can be patient, and we can try to ask the right questions or give the right materials, or, you know, direct people towards organizations like PFLAG. But if that person absolutely refuses to accept you as an equal human being, that is not the definition of family.
That's amen. Well, Chasten, I really cannot thank you enough for joining us here live tonight. You have been an incredible influence and role model and advocate. Your students are clearly so lucky to have you, and so are we. So thank you so much.
Oh, you got it. Thank you so much for doing all of your work. And I'm going to get back to catching the zazz.
Yeah, jazz hands for the rest of the night. Zazz hands, I should say.
Jazz hands. I love it. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.